Are you a rugby player or contact athlete and have been told you need to gain more weight in order to be more physically dominant in your sport? The question is it really that simple? Oftentimes by coaches in high schools, maybe amateur or semi-pro rugby, or maybe even still pro rugby, the advice is thrown around to players to just gain more weight. This is likely more common in youth athletes or maybe in athletes that are coming in the high school or university stage, where coaches feel that if players aren't physically dominant, the answer is to let them gain more weight. This is a very general approach and a very general type of advice that is thrown around, and I think it's been repeated. Most likely when these coaches were younger, it was told to them, and that is how these ideas kind of develop and just keep on going around. However, I believe by just blindly following this advice, it could hinder your own progress as a player, a rugby player or a contact sport athlete, and it could actually make you worse. First of all, let's get it out of the way before anyone attacks me and says, well, if I weigh 50 kgs, whatever. Obviously, this does not apply to you if you are someone that is extremely underweight. If you are someone that needs to play in under 19 or an age group and you are quite literally maybe 50-60% lighter than most people in that position, then most probably you are underfed and you need to eat more. So obviously there are extremes to any situation. This is not that type of thing. I'm generally speaking about coaches blindly telling players to gain weight rapidly when they are not performing or not physically dominating in their sport. Point number one is the arbitrary nature of weight targets or specific weights that players need to be in certain positions. Players and coaches need to understand that these targets are honestly just arbitrary. There is no strategic or statistic validity behind these numbers. They often ignore outliers, or they often ignore general traits and complexities of sport and players that play these sports. And oftentimes these numbers are oversimplifying what it means to be physically dominant and how easy and what it takes to be physically dominant in a sport. And not only does it oversimplify that, but it also overlooks the complexity of analyzing players and the specific demands that they need to address in order to become better. If you are 6 kilograms away from this arbitrary number, gaining that 6 kilograms in 2 months does not mean you will improve on the field at all. It's actually in turn gaining 6 kilograms in 2 months might even really negatively impact your performance. And that is exactly why it is dangerous to blindly follow these arbitrary numbers. If you're watching this video and this was you, you probably know that you have been told to gain weight in a short amount of time. And this is the first problem that I have with it. Gaining this amount of weight in a short amount of time. Let's say you are weighing 82 kilograms or 84 kilograms and your coach really wants you to weigh 90 kilograms in the next 2-3 months before the season starts. Gaining that amount of weight is honestly just fat. Whatever you will gain, if you do achieve that, you will probably just be gaining fat. And a lot of times, because you will not be building muscle in that short amount of time. So what you're gaining is fat. And at the end of the day, what this basically means is that you are most likely sacrificing some type of conditioning in your body. Having that type of short-term weight gain in that short period of time is unrealistic. And if it is achieved, it just means the athlete gained fat. This can come at the sacrifice of speed and fitness. So I would really like to highlight this problem that for players, just blindly gaining weight really quickly is almost 100% guaranteed not to just improve your performance. It is not that easy. The game or any type of sport is so much more complex. If it was as simple as just gaining weight, then it would be so easy to become better at your sport, but it's not that simple. The game demands physical characteristics at a high level, and you need to be able to call on multiple physical characteristics and be good at all of them. Speed, strength, you need to have fitness, you need to have all of those things, and it needs to be at a high level. Improving these will most likely make you a better athlete. Another reason why I say this is a big problem, especially in the lower levels, especially at younger ages, is that it's an outdated idea. Let's take a look at modern day rugby players way back. This is probably when it started. Most rugby players, especially in the forwards, were a bit more on the chunky side. When we look at the modern day rugby player, you can almost see that this idea of bigger is better or fatter is better, or it's fine if we have some unathletic guys because we need them in the scrum. It's almost starting to die out. We now have hookers and props who are all extremely mobile, and there's more and more of them coming out. This was not as common back in the day, and it's now becoming more and more common. As S&C evolves, as our knowledge about S&C evolves, this happens. It's normal. People are becoming more athletic because it benefits you. The more athletic people that you have and the more well-rounded the athleticism is, the better is your team. And this makes sense. However, like any idea, there's always going to be some resistance, and there will always be an idea that sticks around longer than it should. You can already see in the modern day rugby player, there is not necessarily just a rugby player that is just plain old fat. You don't have a player who's just unconditioned. You have players, for example, if we look at modern day hookers, at modern day props, more and more of them are athletic, are of lower body fats. They are really strong. They are really conditioned in totality. This is what makes the athlete better. Improving those metrics is what will make an athlete better, not blindly gaining weight on a scale. People will look at these athletes, see, okay, they weigh 100 kilograms and assume that this is what I need to do with my 18-year-old athlete to make them just as good or of the same quality. But what they lack to understand is that these athletes have long-term development behind them. And what you need to understand is excess body fat cannot improve physical attributes. Excess body fat cannot improve speed. It cannot improve strength. It cannot improve your agility. It can hinder it. While I'm talking on the subject, I also want you to know that weight gain necessarily is not bad. What I'm against is short-term weight gain that is actually just fat gain, and what I think is a better option is gaining weight sustainably and through a good program. And the weight gain is a byproduct of building muscle, actual muscle. And the muscle is a byproduct of a really well-rounded program that emphasizes speed, strength, hypertrophy, and conditioning. This weight gain, however, that will happen when athletes do train well, will happen much slower, and it will happen in smaller amounts at one time. The benefits of this, however, is that athletes do not necessarily decrease other attributes. They stay fit, and that is exactly what a balanced program is. So let's look at what a proper program and what proper advice would be. A proper program and proper advice would be to advise athletes to eat more quality food, high quality food. It would be to advise athletes to still consume a bit more calories, not necessarily go into an outrageous surplus via junk food, but eating more calories, more quality calories, just above maintenance. This will allow for a sustainable, high activity training regimes and also allow them to still sustainably build muscle. The program needs to be a program that emphasizes multiple qualities, especially if it's a rugby player. A program that emphasizes speed, strength, agility, conditioning, and power. Doing this over a long term is setting yourself up for great development. You're setting yourself up for consistency, and you are setting yourself up better than you would if you would just blindly gain weight. Unfortunately, coaches base a lot of their preseason thoughts of players on how much weight they gained and if they hit their weight target. And it's really unfortunate because really, like I explained, this absolutely has so little to do with how an athlete will perform and if they are actually getting better. I'd like to provide you with an anecdote in my own playing career. So when I was in high school, I received similar advice I've received this advice actually consistently over my career. Being a center at times, playing multiple positions in the backline, and being shorter. I see a lot of advice from coaches telling me to gain more weight and to be more physical dominant. This is what I need. However, when I was younger, I followed this advice blindly. When I was in my matric year, I weighed maybe about 72, 73 kilograms. When I went over to university, I was told by a coach to gain more weight. He gave me a target, an actual numerical target to hit, and said this is the ideal size for me and this is the ideal size for his type of player in this thing. Obviously, I know more, I know that is super arbitrary, and if I look at what this coach really valued of me, it was my agility, my speed, and my decision making. This is the qualities that my coach really valued of me. During this season in 2019, I tried my best to gain weight. I was eating a ton of calories. I actually ended up weighing about 85 to 86 kilograms in 2019. So within this time span of 1 year, I basically went from being 72, 73 kgs to about 84 kgs. What did I gain? A lot of muscle? Maybe a bit, but essentially I gained a lot of fat. What went down? My conditioning went down, and who would have guessed? The few attributes that made me good and that made me attractive as a player for this coach declined. My agility declined, my conditioning declined, my speed declined because I was just gaining fat. I did not gain this in a sustainable way. Essentially, this coach also told me at the same time, way after, you're losing a bit of your speed, you're losing a step. But it was his initial advice that got me there. Obviously, as a player, you go through these type of things and you learn. But this is what I'm trying to tell you. This is what this type of weight gain can do. This did not in any way improve my game. And if I can give you some examples, when I look at the beginning of that season, when I was lighter, but definitely faster, I actually was more physically dominant than I was at the end of my season when I was at my heaviest. So this is really interesting to look at, and you can look at your games, and maybe there's some stuff, maybe it's about who you played on the day or your mental state. There's so many factors when it comes to sport because it's so complex. But this is honestly, when I look back at that time, I cannot think of a better example for young players. If I look at my own development now, I can easily look at the past 2-3 years where I actually weighed 80 kilograms, and I think in the time span from 2022 weighing about 80 to 81 kilograms, I have now in the time span of 2.5 years, 3 years, I have become stronger, faster, and I've also gained weight, about 6-7 kilograms. So I'm actually the same weight that I was when I was in 2019. But at the same time now, because I took my time to gain this weight, I'm faster, I am leaner at the weight of 86, 87 kilograms than I was when I was 84 kilograms. I am leaner than I was then, I'm stronger, and I'm just in better physical conditioning. My honest opinion is that this is also a byproduct of bad programming within the younger school systems. I have a few athletes that play at different high schools, and I know the type of programming that goes there, and I'm really reluctant when it comes to bashing other coaches' programs. But if I had to categorize it, I would say that most of their programs are not rounded off, meaning it doesn't fully address all the specific qualities that players need. Either the programs are fully focused on hypertrophy, or it's just strength driven and there's no other athletic abilities that are being trained. If you're an athlete and you are currently someone who's been told this, or you're someone who is going through the exact same thing, or someone who has gone through it, this is your sign to think a bit deeper about this and your own sports performance. Take a look at your game. Take a look at the few years that you have. Take a look when you were at your best and when you were at your worst as a player. Look and analyze that. Look at your own game and your own athletic development and see what you need as a player. And look at the physical attributes that if you were to improve them, were they the ones that would make a big difference in your game? Try and chase that instead of going for an oversimplified advice like just gaining more weight within 3 months. And then take a deep look at your own training and see if you are really addressing everything that you need to address in your program to become a more well-rounded athlete. If you are able to improve your qualities and become more athletic and take the long-term route, I promise you it will pay more dividends in your career. And if you're an athlete and you don't know where to turn, you don't know which programming is the best, and you don't know what to do for this maybe upcoming off-season, consider looking at my Total Athlete program. It's a 10-week program and it addresses all the physical qualities you will need. And it's possible to run the program after and learn more from the program and see what good quality training is all about. If you like this video, please subscribe, please like it, and I'll see you in the next one.